Okay, so we are officially starting. This is our third week of the 30 Days to Healthy Living and Beyond. Week one, we covered detoxification. Week two, we cover, we might need people to mute. Let me go ahead and I'm just going to mute people while I talk. And when I need you to talk, I will unmute you or you can unmute yourself. And that way we won't have moon of conflict with sound here. Okay. So this way you can go ahead and unmute yourself when you need to. So anyways, like I was saying, week one, we were talking about detoxification. The second week, we talked about the major macronutrients. So we talked about protein, carbohydrates, fats, and water. And then we also talked about the micronutrients. And so if anybody listening to this would like a copy of either of those or both of those recordings, please just let me know and I would be happy to send you the link so that you can go back and you can listen to them. This is an ongoing thing, even though it's called the 30 Days to Healthy Living. We are doing these every week. And so we have people coming in, people going out. We do have some people who are in other areas who are not able to join us, who are listening to these by recording after the fact. So that's why we're recording them. But tonight is meant to be fairly interactive. So I want to hear from you guys. Tonight we're going to be talking about the tenets of mindful eating. I am a licensed Am I Hungry mindful eating facilitator and coach with the Am I Hungry mindful eating program. This book, I know it's probably backward to you guys. It says, Eat What You Love What You Eat, written by Dr. Michelle May. I was one of the first facilitators of her training program. I've been doing this for close to 10 years now. And what I love about this program is that it really helped me to repair my relationship with food and with my body. So to tell you a little bit about me, it's important that you know, because I think it will help you understand why I'm so passionate about this. But at one point in my life, starting at about the age of 15, I had an eating disorder. And so I was an athlete. I was actually, I ran track and I was a diver. And if you know anything about diving, it's very similar to figure skating or dancing, gymnastics, where there's a big emphasis on the way you look. And so what happened for me was that the pressures of looking perfect on that diving board really ushered me into a state of not being content with my body the way it was. And that body, lack of contentment with my body, combined with really growing up in a household with parents who were on and off of diets and still are to this day, on and off of diets, just kind of set me up to start my first diet, which actually became my first eating disorder. So, and my only eating disorder. I vacillated between starving myself and then something would trigger me, usually emotions. I was a teenager, right? So friends, a boyfriend, school, stuff at home would trigger me. And then I would overeat and then I would do whatever it took to get rid of those calories, whether it was over-exercising or purging, whatever it took. And so I went through the extremes of overeating and the extremes of restriction. And so tonight we're going to be talking about those, both aspects of our eating cycles. And then we're going to talk about instinctive eating. But I did not know what it meant to be an instinctive eater anymore. So I lost touch with that, went down that rabbit trail with eating disorders and body image issues for many, many years. I recovered, so I thought, because I didn't have eating disorder behavior anymore, but I had become really good at restricting. So watching calories, counting calories, reading food labels to where it was like exhausting. Like if I could have all that time back that I spent reading food labels and obsessing over food, I can't tell you what I could have potentially done during that time with all that wonderful time that I would have had, but was spent poorly, right? So, I became very familiar with like what you would call a chronic diet. And so it took me many, many years to overcome that. I think becoming an adult and, really beginning to come into a space of more accepting of my body, which really came through yoga and my relationship with God. I found my way to a healthier relationship with food in my body, but there was something missing. And so in about 2002, I met Michelle May. We were introduced by a common friend, and she told me what she was doing with this program. I owned a gym at the time. I invited her to come to my gym, and she actually facilitated workshops from my gym. I sat through one of her workshops and went, oh my goodness, this is it. This was the missing piece for me. Learning how to change my thoughts and my attitudes about food, really learning to understand my body and becoming connected between my mind and my body, my heart and my spirit. All of it was happening at the same time for me because I was learning about yoga and, learning about mindful eating, and they were parallel. They were happening at the same time, and they integrated the same concepts. So tonight, I want to share with you just an overview of what this program is about, because it, to me, was about freedom. It was about freedom from overeating, freedom from dieting, freedom from thinking of food in a good or bad way, like, that's bad food, that's good food. It leveled the playing field for me with food, and taught me how to really become healthy. And I don't just mean like healthy in terms of the nutrients I take into my body, but healthy in the way I approached food and my relationship with food and my attitude toward food and my body. And so it is an integral part of what I do. I love working with private clients to help them with this journey. People who've been chronic dieters, or people who have struggled with overeating, or both. I do work with people who are recovering from eating disorders, but I also work with people who just, maybe just don't understand really that mind-body connection and haven't really applied it in the way that they eat. So tonight I want to hit on those things. And so you should have a flyer, a packet really. First page looks like this, and it's called the Mindful Eating Cycle, or the Eating Cycle, because we're going to talk about 3 different eating cycles tonight. And then there is a sheet that looks like this that you can fill out kind of as we go through each of the different eating cycles and each of the decision points along the cycles, where you can take notes if you want to. And then there's a really awesome article written by Dr. Michelle May, and then a space for additional notes for you. But one of the things that I want to share with you that I'm so excited about, Dr. May, Michelle, has gotten a lot of exposure for mindful eating. In fact, she's been on Dr. Oz twice. But just recently, she appeared in this issue of Time magazine on mindfulness. So if you pick this up, I just picked it up at Sprouts, but there's, you can pick it up anywhere that sells Time magazine. This whole article, this whole entire issue is devoted to mindfulness and mindfulness practices. And there's an article about mindful eating in here, and she is quoted throughout. So you can kind of get another perspective on what mindful eating is all about, and how they really included this as a part of mindfulness training, because how we eat is very much about how we integrate with our body, mind, heart, body, and spirit, and it's very much a practice of mindfulness. So I want to begin by asking you guys, and I'm going to unmute you. Have any of you ever been on a diet?
Yes.
Yes. Anyone else?
Yes.
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 Cindy, have you?
Yep.
Okay. So and Bob is going like this, no. My husband here as well. He's like, no, never been on a diet. Okay. So when you were restricting, okay, so when you were going through this diet, I want you to think about why you ate in the first place. We're going to go through the decision points along the eating cycle, because it really helps us to kind of unpack the decision points along the way that we are making consciously or unconsciously with respect to food and our eating. So why did you eat in the first place when you were dieting?
You're hungry?
Because you were hungry?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
When you were on a diet, why did you eat?
To gain sustenance out of the foods that you consume.
Okay. So some nutrition to make sure that you didn't like pass out, right? You had what you needed.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So according to the diet, so I'm not saying your body, but you were on a diet at the time. When did you want to eat? Or when did you eat?
I guess it depends on what diet. Like some of them I would kind of eat through the day, but try to stop myself from getting too hungry and then bored, you know?
Was anybody ever on a diet that told you when you needed to eat or how frequently?
Yeah.
Do you guys hear that?
Well, I know I hear
in the background.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear that too.
Okay, it sounds like it's coming from, I'm going to try this. I'm going to mute a number that I see up here, and I apologize if you guys are listening and I'm muting you, but it looks like it might be coming from this. No. Okay, I don't know. Hold on. Melanie, it might be you. Hold on. Yeah. Sorry, Mel. I'm going to have to mute you because I think it was coming from your computer, whatever it was. So, okay. I apologize that Melanie won't be able to speak, but that noise is going to be disruptive, I think. So when we ate was usually delineated by whatever the diet was, right? They might have told you times to eat or how every 3 hours you ate or, whatever the parameters of that particular diet was, right? What did you eat on your diet?
Well, for me, I did like a smoothie diet. I would do vegetables and fruit, try to do that as often as possible. I would throw in tofu to get the protein. And then salmon and like different types of fish to try to substitute it for chicken and beef.
Okay. So was that all part of what the prescription of the diet was? Or was that just...
That was just something more or less that I did.
Okay.
It wasn't really something that I followed.
Okay. Anyone else want to share what you ate?
I was on a diet once. It was like a soup. It's like that cabbage soup diet. And there was, this goes way back. So I've been on several, but I think about that one because that's when we had to eat that all the time. Like one day, that's all you had. I think then the next day, but there were very specific things that you could eat each day.
Mm-hmm. So they were very clear in telling you specifically what the
diet was,
rules of the diet were, and what you should be eating and what you shouldn't be eating. Yeah. Anyone else? We heard cabbage diet. We heard smoothie diet. Anyone ever do paleo or Atkins or anything like that? South Beach. Yeah. Okay. And so obviously, the what you ate would be very specific to whatever that particular diet recommended, right? So the point I'm trying to make is that it was something external, right? Somebody told you or gave you a list of foods that were okay and acceptable on that diet and recommended for that particular diet. And they probably gave you a list of foods that you were supposed to stay away from too. So how did you eat? Tell me about the experience of eating. Did you eat slowly, quickly? Did you enjoy it? Were you distracted? What was it like to eat when you were on this diet?
I think it kind of depended which, it was like which one. I mean, some of them, the fruits and vegetables, they were enjoyable, but in the back of my mind, wanting that starch or, that would affect how I ate. As far as quickly, I mean, when I'm really hungry, really starved, I eat faster.
Mm-hmm.
I just do. So,
yeah.
So when you were on that particular diet, Cindy, did you find that you were really hungry and you just ate the food, like you felt famished and you ate it very quickly?
Yeah.
Yeah. Was anybody ever on a diet where it was almost like too much food to eat, where they had you eating constantly and you weren't even feeling necessarily hungry, but you were eating anyway? No?
No.
Okay.
But I do think, that it was a little bit of that, like eating so that you don't get really hungry, so that you don't overeat. I feel like, always having something, like all the snacks, keeping you going so that you never get so starved that you kind of go off of it. I'm not sure, but
yeah.
I do feel like there were times that I was eating to avoid being really hungry. Right.
Yeah. I remember when I was one of the owners of Curbs, we had to, as franchise owners, we had to utilize the Curbs diet. And so I would not teach it, but my partner taught it. And we had people who were complaining because of the way it was, you had to eat like every 3 hours and you had to eat a certain amount of protein at each meal and, lots and lots of vegetables that were loaded with fiber. And there were times where like, oh my gosh, I can't eat another bite of this, whether it was because they were craving something else and this just wasn't satisfying them, or it was too much protein, or it was too many celery sticks, whatever. There were times where people would be like, I just can't even eat it all. And it was supposed to increase metabolism and, kindle their metabolism, get it going, from people who had, destroyed their metabolism from years of dieting, but it was yet just another diet. And yet they felt like, oh my gosh, I have to keep stuffing this in and follow this plan, even though they weren't necessarily hungry. So that was an interesting twist on it, on dieting, right? So how much did you eat on your diet?
I know with the smoothie diet, there wasn't a lot of eating. It really did hold your appetite for a while. And then in between, you eat nuts and berries and just try to make the choices that you make with what you were eating healthy. It felt like, it took you through to the next, like for my lunch, I would have fish and vegetables but it seemed like by dinner time, I would just be really hungry. I would want something with dairy or pizza so I was good, like maybe for morning and for lunch, but then by the time evening came, I was like, just whatever, I was just eating whatever. So
yeah. So did your diet you kind of created on your own, but with respect to like South Beach or the cabbage diet or a prescribed diet, from a medical office, whatever, oftentimes they tell you exactly how much to eat. You might even be measuring your food. You might be weighing your food, or it might come down to grams of protein, grams, or numbers of calories, that sort of thing, where someone else was telling you, how much you're supposed to eat. And so, again, it's coming from not your body, but, from an outside source, telling you, what the rules of the diet are and how much you're supposed to eat. So, so then the final question then would be where did you invest your energy, from, you know, whatever food you were eating, on that particular diet du jour? Where did your energy go? How did you use the calories that you know, that you got from that, from the, you know, the food that you were eating on that diet?
Well, I would have, I would go for walks in the evening. And then during like my lunch break, I would walk around our parking garage at work. And that's about it.
Okay. What about you, Cindy?
I don't remember. All I remember is that there was very little information about that, but just get some exercise.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember specific,
Mm-hmm.
But get some exercise. You know, walk each day. I don't remember that component. I don't remember. That doesn't stand out to me.
Did anyone find themselves kind of expending energy on worrying about following the rules of the diet, or worrying about counting calories, or worrying about, you know, making sure that they were eating what they were supposed to be eating, or following the rules? Did your energy get spent there at all?
Yeah, I mean, I think
I would say so. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that it was a lot of energy to try not to think about the things that I really wanted to eat.
Yeah. Spend a lot of time thinking about food, planning for food, right? Worrying about food and following the rules. And yeah. So, you know, there, in some cases, you know, there would be a prescription for specific exercise, or, you know, how much exercise you should be doing. But a lot of times the energy was spent like worrying about following the rules of a diet, you know, and that's one of the things that we really find when we're working with people who've been lifetime dieters, or on and off the diet, or, you know, yo-yo dieters throughout their lifetime, that they said, God, if I could have all of that time back that I spent worrying about food. And I can relate to that. When I became like the, you know, the restriction queen, I spent so much time worrying about food and reading food labels and planning my meals and making sure that, you know, I didn't step outside of the line, you know, like the parameters that whoever established. And at that time I had kind of established my own. It was like, not real food. It was no fat, low fat, sugar free, you know, which is even more frightening, because now we've found there's so many toxic carcinogens and chemicals and things in there that are so horrible for the body. But at the time, my mentality was, you know, diet food's better, right? Because it has less calories. It's got to be better for you. And it's, you know, it says diet on the label. So, you know, it's got to help you with weight loss or maintenance, you know. So I just found that I expended a whole lot of energy in that direction, you know. So, okay, so we're going to kind of switch gears, and now I want you to think about your most recent or most memorable time when you overate. Okay, so I want you to kind of conjure up an image in your head, like remembering a time when you just kind of went at it, and you know, had maybe a binge eating episode, or where you really just kind of overate. So let's think about the why. Why did you eat in the first place? What triggered you to eat?
I think sometimes your emotion just depends on if you're going through something mental or if you're bored. And for me, I think sometimes I tend to be an emotional eater.
That is one of the most common things that we experience and deal with mindful eating, is, you know, the emotional eating, boredom, sadness, you name the emotion, right? Stress, worry, you know, fear, whatever, pain. And that could be a reason, you know, to begin eating, or, you know, trigger an overeating cycle. Anyone else?
Last time I think I was working on a project and I felt like I was eating, you know, along with it.
Yeah.
Working on this project that it was kind of like a good idea.
Uh-huh.
Or maybe the project would be better. And so I remember losing track. And when I realized at one point how much I had consumed, I was really uncomfortable. I was shocked.
Yeah.
I got the project done, but I was sick.
Yeah. So that would be that mind, when we go from being mindful to being mindless, because we're distracted and we're not paying attention and we're doing something else at the same time. So mindlessness absolutely can be, a trigger for an overeating cycle for sure. Yeah. Anyone else? Does anyone ever have like hormonal cycles or taking steroids or, I don't know. I'm just going to throw a few things out there that I know come up.
Melanie wrote something and was showing you. It was
I can't see it. What does it say?
Holidays.
Okay. So here's the term that we use in the Am I Hungry program. We are food suggestible. And so that means that the very presence of food, the sight of food, the smell of food, just even watching a TV ad, driving past a restaurant, whatever, can trigger us to think that we're hungry and want to eat. And so the holidays, which are right around the corner, thank you, Mel, that's awesome, great example, can, end up being the initiator of an overeating cycle because the food is there and it looks beautiful and we only get it once a year and grandma made it or whoever, pulled out their best chocolates or whatever. And so that absolutely can be one of those triggers for, entering into an overeating cycle. So thanks for sharing that. All right. Anyone else?
I think sometimes waiting too long to eat for me, if I wait too long, and by the time I do eat, then I kind of overeat. I'll eat more than what I should.
Yeah, absolutely. Allowing ourselves to get too hungry. And Cindy, you touched on that a little bit when you said that, when you were on one of the diets you were on, you ate in a way you were just like famished because, you weren't getting enough food and you allowed yourself to get too hungry. And so, that was why you kept yourself eating some of those snacks, was to keep yourself from getting too hungry so that you wouldn't end up, just eating anything because you were so hungry. Yeah, for sure. So during this episode of overeating or times of overeating, when did you get triggered? Well, actually, we kind of talked about that because it was the why and the when at the same time. So what did you eat? What was the food of choice?
Pizza.
Well, for me, it was cereal.
Pizza. Cereal. That better have been good cereal. What kind of cereal was it?
Oh, it was, what is it? Corn Puffs or something. I think it was Corn Puffs.
Yeah. My husband's going, oh, like, He likes them.
I ate like 3 bowls.
He's doing corn checks. Yeah. So for me, it probably would have been something sweet, right? Some people like salty, some like salty and sweet, some like crunchy, so, whatever. But for me, it would have been going down the path of sweet foods. Melanie, feel free to hold up a sign and tell us what your food of choice was if you want, if you want to share it. Let me see if it got any better. I'm going to unmute you because I feel terrible. Let's see. Okay, you're unmuted. Let's see if it's better. No, it's not better. Oh, man. All right, go ahead and say it.
What does it sound like?
It's a scratchy, like, it sounds like you're taking a plastic bag and like doing it right in front of the microphone.
That's weird.
You can't hear it, huh?
No.
Okay, so tell us.
Do you have maybe a fan?
What's that?
Now I was thinking maybe there was a fan blowing or something, but maybe not.
No, the only thing I can hear in the background is my refrigerator, but I can't turn it off.
Yeah, no, it wouldn't be a refrigerator. Okay, so share with us the food of choice, and then I'm going to remute you.
Potato chips.
Potato chips. Okay, salty, crunchy. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thanks for sharing that. All right. So, so how did you eat in your, you already shared with us, Cindy, that it was mindless, right? You were doing a project and eating at the same time and disconnected kind of from the whole eating experience. So it was, you know, kind of mindless eating. Anyone else want to share how they ate? Fast, slow? Did you hide? Did you hide the food? Did you make sure no one saw how many lines of the cookies or or scrapes off the top of the ice cream you took and lined up the edges of the cake if you ate the cake? No, I don't know. But come on, we all do it, right? I mean, honestly, not too long ago, I was looking at the brownies my son made, and I did a straight line. I went, oh my gosh. I just went back in time to do that. Like, I actually just shaved a little tiny line along the whole edge and went, oh, that's what I used to do when I was trying to hide how much I ate. That's ridiculous. Anyway, it was one of those moments where it was just, like I didn't even think about it and went, oh my gosh, no, I'm just going to cut a normal piece. That's okay. I can cut a normal piece. So anyway, all right. So share how.
For me, I ate the cereal fast.
You ate it fast. Yeah.
Yeah, because I was hungry. I waited too long to eat. Yeah. And so it was like bowl after bowl. At least I think it was like 3 bowls. And it was like, wow, I just felt horrible afterwards. I was so stuffed.
Yeah, that brings us right to the how much. And the how much was, too much, right?
Yes.
Where we feel sick, uncomfortable, bloated, maybe we need to lay down, tired, right? Cindy, how did you feel after your overeating episode?
Stuffed.
Yeah.
Like pizza. And it was actually one of those like good, healthy pizza places. So I was like, I'll have another one. I'll have another one. I'll have another one. And then there was like one left. And I went, well, I might as well just eat that too. Like, what am I going to do? I'm going to take that home. If I've eaten that much, I might as well finish it. That was kind of but it was, I did think about it at that point. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I ate all that pizza.
Yeah.
Only one piece left. Well, I might as well finish it. Like, if I've gone that far, I might as well just complete it.
Just keep going. And this far. Exactly. And then there'd be less to eat later. So,
yeah, like why
get rid of it.
On that, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So, where did your energy go during this episode of overeating? How'd you spend your energy? Anyone lay down, take a nap? Did you beat yourself up over overeating? Did you what?
Well, for me, I do tend to get tired after doing that. I feel like so stuffed, and then I'll lie down, then I'll just go to sleep.
Yeah. I can relate to that because mine, if it's, the times that I've done it, it would usually be sugar, and then you get that sugar crash afterward, right? And then
yes.
You're exhausted and you want to lay down. Yeah, for sure. Cindy, how about you?
I came home and dumped my books and went and grabbed a digestive enzyme because it hurt so bad. I had to do something to settle it down. I mean, I felt sick. I was just not paying attention.
Yeah. Those are the times when we put our yoga pants on, not to do yoga, but because they're stretchy.
Right.
Exactly. All right. So now we've looked at kind of both extremes. And so the reality is that we find that people do tend to go through those extremes. We call it the eat, repent, repeat cycle. Right? Where you eat, you feel bad about it, and then something, whatever, triggers another one of those episodes, and down the path we go. But we also have found that people kind of go from one extreme to the other. So they'll be doing really, really good on their dieting, and then, maybe eventually over time, they come back to more normalized eating, and then maybe they ping pong because of whatever reason, stress, a loss of a job, emotion, whatever, into an overeating cycle. And so they're like, go from being in control to being out of control, right? But the reality is that instinctive and mindful eating are about that middle place where we are dialed in to what our body is telling us, where we're listening to our cues for hunger, when we know when we're hungry and we respond to it appropriately. And we also know when we're hungry for something else, not food. Okay, so attention, rest, de-stressing, yoga, whatever it is, and we respond to the body's needs appropriately instead of through food. So instinctive eating is really finding that middle place. So if you think in terms of like a pendulum, like where one extreme is restriction and the other extreme is overeating, it's that middle place where the pendulum just tends to kind of balance somewhere in between. And so so I want you to take a moment. I want you to conjure up an image in your mind of somebody that you know, and maybe this was you at one point in your life, where they don't ever really have to worry about managing their weight. They're not concerned about food. Food doesn't run their lives. They're not on and off of diets, but somebody who just kind of eats instinctively. So can you think of anybody? Has that ever been you? Do you know somebody like this?
That just eats whenever they want. Don't really think much about it. Is that the question?
Yeah, somebody who just, hasn't been, somebody who has really gone through bouts of overeating or dieting, but they just kind of manage their weight effortlessly, and where, they don't seem to really worry about food, but they just kind of, it's just kind of easy and effortless for them. Do you know of anybody like that? Melanie, Melanie's saying her brother. So I'm going to have Melanie really quick. I'm going to unmute you and let you tell us about your brother. Tell me about your brother.
My brother's 4 years older than me, but has never had a weight issue. And food is just not, he can eat whatever he wants, but he doesn't eat it excessively. He just eats like a normal person should, I guess. Mm-hmm. His wife is like that too. So they both, neither one of them have like an ounce of fat on them. So. But they eat good. They eat wholesome and they eat well and they enjoy what they eat.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. I'm going to remute you for a second. So I think it was Tamara who was going to share. Okay. Tamara, did you want to share?
Yeah, a few people. I believe I could say that I know, and they just seem to, eat not necessarily always like wholesome foods. I know a few people that, shop mostly at like Whole Foods or whatever, but there are a few that do Whole Foods. They'll do pizza, whatever, and they seem to be in good shape, and they're not worrying about, being on any particular diet or anything. They're pretty focused, and I think it's just maintaining, knowing to be able to eat good and, also have to be able to move and get out and exercise, just kind of being consistent with the two, I think. But yeah, a few people like that. Mm-hmm. I know.
Yeah. So instinctive eaters, as you guys were starting to kind of paint a picture, when we think about why they eat, they generally eat because they're hungry. Generally, not always, but generally. When do they eat? It's when their body is telling them it's time to eat, and they just instinctively know. They just have this kind of dialed in frequency, like they know when they need to eat, and they respond to their hunger in appropriate ways. So what do they eat? You guys said healthy overall, but instinctive eaters also might eat foods that just taste good just because they enjoy them. They have an ability to really balance eating for nourishment with eating for pleasure. Okay, so that's the title, Eat What You Love, Love What You Eat. They eat in a way, they eat food that they love, and they eat it in a way that demonstrates that they love it, right? They're going to be mindful in the way that they eat. They usually eat more slowly. They're more intentional about their eating, and they might be conversing while they're eating and really enjoying the experience of eating, not just the food. And how much do they eat? Well, they usually eat just as much as their body needs. So oftentimes you'll see instinctive eaters will leave food on their plate because they're done. They know that they're full, they're satisfied, and they've eaten enough and they're ready to move on. So these are the kind of people that some people really want to strangle because they're the ones that might take 2 bites of a brownie and go, yeah, that was awesome, I'm done, right? Whereas the rest of the population will go, what do you mean? That amazing brownie, you only ate 2 bites of it? What are you, crazy? But that's an instinctive eater. Like, they're just going to eat what they feel like having. When they're finished, and they move on. And so where do they expend their energy? They're generally active people. They may not necessarily be people who go to the gym. They might, but generally they are active, right? They're moving around, they're doing their life, and that's, they're getting the fuel from their food to live an active, vibrant life. So the reality is that each and every one of us at one point in our life was an instinctive eater. For whatever reason, and there are many, we explore them when we kind of go through this program over 8 weeks. But for whatever reason, whether they learn to comfort themselves through food, or their parents comforted them through food, or whatever the case may be, somewhere along the line they derailed from instinctive eating. But if you think about a toddler, and I can just paint the picture, every one of us once at one point was a toddler. We've seen a toddler. We know how they act and move and breathe and live. Why do they eat? Well, they eat when they're hungry, and they know when they're hungry. They will, if they can't communicate through asking for food, they will find a way to ask for food. They might throw a temper tantrum, they might get cranky, they might, whatever. But they'll let you know when they're hungry. And what do they eat? Well, they eat what they feel like eating. I don't know if you guys have ever tried to feed a toddler food that they don't like or want. Have you guys ever done that? Okay, I have a 3-year-old grandbaby. Cindy has a 1-year-old grandbaby. And you know what I'm saying, right? You try to feed them something they don't want, it's coming back at you, right? They're going to spit it out. They're going to throw it on the floor. They're going to feed it to the dog, whatever. It ain't going in. And it's pretty funny to watch because they're so intuitive that they're like, no way, I'm not eating that. So how do they eat? Well, think about how a toddler eats. Can you guys picture that in your mind, how they play with their food and they touch it and they squeeze it and they pound it and bang it, and they're experiencing it, right? It's mindful. Like, they are fully enjoying the experience of food, whether they're painting it on their face, painting it on the table, painting it on the dog, smashing it, breaking it, whatever, like playing with it with the spoon, flinging it across the room. They're experiencing their food. They're enjoying it. And I'm not saying, of course, that we should go back to being toddlers in that regard, because we might get thrown out of restaurants and people won't want to eat with us. But, but I mean, certainly we are meant to enjoy food. I mean, it wouldn't taste good if we weren't meant to enjoy it. So, how much do they eat? Well, when they're done, and they're going to let you know they're done. If you try to give a toddler more food than they want, again, it's coming back at you. They're just not going to eat more than they want or need. And then what do they do with their energy? They're toddling all over the place. They're exploring things. They're moving. It's hard to keep up with them when you're my age. But they're very active. They're exploring. They're living life. They're enjoying life. And so that's where they expend their energy, and just being active and mobile and moving around. And so we were all born like that. We were all born to move. And so, it just takes different forms as we get older. So each and every one of us came from this origin, right? We all have been toddlers. We've all been mindful eaters and instinctive eaters at one point in our lives. So what we do through the Am I Hungry program is that we help people reprogram themselves. We help them get back to that way of eating using a variety of different tools and all these decision points, and teaching strategies for how to get to a point where we're instinctive and really dialed into our body, our body's needs, our body's wants and desires, starting with asking the question, am I hungry? It's the only rule of the Am I Hungry program is you ask yourself when you have the urge to eat, am I hungry? And by the way, if you only do that one thing, you will make a huge change in the way you eat, because you'll suddenly stop yourself. Instead of reaching for the food because you have the urge to eat, you pause and ask yourself, am I hungry? Wow, that is life-changing. That in and of itself will help you to make really intentional decisions with respect to eating. And then certainly you can answer the question, well, am I hungry? What if you don't know the answer to that question? What if aren't even dialed into your body anymore to the point where you don't know what it even feels like to be hungry, or you confuse other things with hunger? That's one of the things we do, is we tease away at that question to know when we really are hungry and when we're not. And then what do we do with that? What do we do with it if we're not hungry, and it's coming from our emotions or the environment, the holidays? That's environmental eating. What do we do with it then? How do we satisfy our other hungers, so to speak, right? And so
Right.
and then really learning what to eat based on some really simple principles. What do I want? What do I need? And what do I have? And we explore all of those questions to really arrive at a place where we can balance eating for nourishment with eating for pleasure. And where we feel satisfied at the end of the meal. That doesn't mean we throw out eating healthfully. I'm telling you that right now. I mean, certainly mindful eaters, we know that our body has needs. We know that we have nutritional needs, and we want to make sure we take care of those in a healthy way. But that doesn't mean that we throw out, our desire to eat things that taste good, right? So, So it becomes a whole experience of balancing those things. So then how do we eat? Well, mindful eating is about eating with attention and intention. Okay, sorry, let me say it the other way around. With intention and attention. And so the intention becomes, how do I want to feel when I'm finished? Or whatever your intention is in that particular moment. What is my intention? What is my why? Okay? And then focusing our attention on the experience of eating. So that means moving away distractions, slowing down, putting our fork down. We have strategies for doing mind-body scans to really listen to what our body is telling us. Are we enjoying the food? Have we eaten too much? Are we ready to be done? Or is there something else that we still want or need during that eating process? And so our body becomes the guiding point, the thing that guides us in terms of our eating choices and that experience of eating, really listening to the sensations of eating, feeling the food in our mouth, tasting the food in our mouth, noticing the food as it goes from our mouth to our stomach, paying attention and actually even visualizing what our stomach looks like. How full is it? Am I enjoying the food that I'm eating? Am I having an experience with the food? Am I eating it in a way that demonstrates that I love food? And it's okay to love food. And releasing us from the bondage of good, bad thinking. And it really is bondage, because what happens when we start to look at food in terms of good and bad, we tend to then label ourselves good or bad depending on what we eat. Oh, I was good today. I'm good. I ate good. Oh man, I really screwed up. I ate bad food and now I'm bad. I was bad today, right? We somehow become good or bad based on what we eat. Well, it's really ridiculous when you think about it, because
that's so true.
Right? But that's what we do to ourselves. We label ourselves as good or bad based on what we eat. Well, it's not healthy. It's not a healthy relationship with food. We were never meant to have that kind of a relationship with food. Food is food. Why are we giving it that kind of power? Right? And I know, right? We look at it and go, what? I do that? Oh my gosh. And on top of that, we then fuel and eat, repent, repeat cycle, because there's something called deprivation mentality that is extremely powerful. If you tell yourself not to have something, you can't have it, or that it's bad, what do you think about the most?
That bad thing.
That bad thing, right? And so what ends up happening over time? Will we eventually eat it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And how much will eat? Way more of it than we otherwise would have if we just ate it when we went, oh, I would really like to have that piece of chocolate, and just ate it and moved on. Right?
That's so true. It is.
We expend all this energy and emotion. No, don't have that. Oh, that's bad. Oh, no, can't have that. And then finally, oh, I'm off my diet. I'm going to go and I'm going to have that. And then when you have it, you overconsume it. And then there we go again. Now I feel shameful. I'm bad. It just fuels that whole cycle. So we help to free people from that kind of thinking, from that kind of cycle, and really teach them to love the food that they eat and really fully enjoy the food that they eat, but also eat in a way that is honoring to their body, where they feel good. And when you come to a place of mindful eating and instinctive eating, you don't want to eat the foods that make you feel icky. You don't want to eat too much, because you know you're not going to have energy. You're not going to feel good. The whole point of eating is to feel better when you are done than when you started. Right? We're supposed to feel better. And unfortunately, we go from being uncomfortable because we're hungry right through the point of feeling satisfied and good and vibrant and, okay, now I've got the fuel I need and I feel good, and moving on. Instead, we right past that point to a point of feeling uncomfortable on the other end. And we missed that place where we could have walked away from the meal feeling comfortable and satisfied and vibrant and good. And so, so that's another really important part of mindful eating. So, so all that to say, do you guys have like 5 extra minutes?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Do you have something in your home that you really love to eat?
Yes.
Cindy's all ready. She's like, I know what you're doing. You're going to have us eat some.
I've done this with Dawn before, so I knew I needed to have.
Yeah, you have done it. I think you did it with Michelle, and you might have done it with me before too. Yeah. So, okay. So if you could get something really quick, it doesn't have to be something big. It could be like a little piece of chocolate or a little piece of something that you really, really love. Go grab it and then come back. Let me know when you're back.
Is it something that you need to see?
No, I don't have to see.
I don't have the.
No, I don't. It doesn't matter to me. It's all about you.
Okay.
Okay. You got something?
Yep.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Everybody's got something? Okay, cool. Usually when I do these workshops in person, I'll hand out, I usually have little chocolate truffles, and I'll have like milk chocolate, dark chocolate, and white chocolate. And then you could pick which one you want. And So, so that's what we used the last time I taught this in live. Okay, so we're gonna start. First of all, I want each of you guys to just kind of ask yourself the question right now: am I hungry? Okay, you don't have to tell me the answer. It doesn't matter to me. Okay, so the answer to that question is going to be based on two things: sensations of hunger that come from the stomach. So is there any is your stomach growling, grumbling? Does it feel kind of empty, hollow? Is there any hunger pangs? Any other indicators that maybe your stomach is hungry? Okay, and we actually teach it on a scale of 1 to 10, but just for simplifying tonight, just answer, do I have any signs or symptoms of hunger coming from my stomach? The second would be from low blood sugar, okay? And so we kind of experience that like in our head. So do I feel like lightheaded, a little dizzy, a little foggy, or is there like a craving? Do I feel a little cranky? You know, any signs that maybe our blood sugar is a little bit low. So kind of do that, you know, it's kind of quick assessment. Usually we do this in the form of a little mind-body scan where we do some breathing exercises first and kind of dial in to our body and then kind of scan the body to notice these two places, and are we getting any feedback as to whether or not, you know, our stomach is growling or we have any, you know, signs of low blood sugar. And so checking in like that to find out, okay, am I hungry? Okay, so then now I want you already kind of chose what you wanted. So there must have been something kind of instinctive, intuitive body wisdom, either, you know, a desire that your body has. We call that a 4 really want. I really, 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 really want something. Or something your body kind of needs and is craving. And believe it or not, sometimes that can come in the form of food that tastes really good because there's something in it that our body desires. And that's just body wisdom. So, so you've picked something. And so now the how is eating it mindfully. And so I want you, not yet, just not right this second, but you're going to, in a moment, take a bite. And I want you to close your eyes as you taste the food. And I want you to allow it to kind of move across the tongue. So our tongue has different flavor centers: sweet, sour, bitter, salty, and then umami, which is savory. So allowing it to kind of move across the surface of the tongue. That means the bite has to be fairly small so that it can move. And breathing while you do that so that you can experience the smell of the food at the same time. That's very much a part of enjoying the food and tasting the food. And then just take your time chewing it and then allow it to kind of just move through the back of your throat. And maybe you can even see it as it goes through the throat and kind of plunks down into the stomach. Maybe kind of in your mind's eye, you could envision that. Okay, so go ahead and everybody close your eyes. Take a couple breaths. We always want to be calm when we eat, centered, grounded, not stressed, not worried. So just allow yourself to calm yourself. And then I want you to take a small bite of whatever it is you have. And then I want you to just feel the texture. Notice the taste. Sweet? Is it salty, bitter, sour? Is it savory? Maybe it's got multiple layers to it. Just allow it to move across the tongue, all the different flavors of your food that you chose. And then very, very slowly, after you've chewed it a while, a few times, allow it to move through the back of the throat and kind of see if you can almost envision it coming down into the stomach and landing in the stomach. Good. And I want you to go ahead when you're done with that and just open your eyes. Good. So tell me what that experience was like. Melanie, you're off mute too, by the way.
It was pleasurable.
Pleasurable. Did it taste as good as you thought it would taste? Better? Worse?
I guess maybe a little bit better.
A little bit better? Cool. All right. Anyone else? How was that cookie, Cindy?
Oh my gosh. First of all, I've been looking at it during this whole hour. I had a little taste at the very beginning. I'm like, oh no, I shouldn't be doing that. So I've been looking at it off and on the whole time. It was so good.
Yeah.
It was, salty and sweet. And I'm not hungry, but I was craving like something really tasty. Wanted it.
Well, and you just raised a point. There can be different kinds of hunger. So we may not have a physical hunger. Sometimes we'll eat a meal, we'll be full, but we just want a little taste of something sweet at the end. Or we just want to, you know what I mean? Like there's something missing where we don't feel fully satisfied at the end. And so that one little thing was like, yep, good, now I'm good, you know? So it's just a little bit different kind of a hunger. And it just means that, you know, in the course of our meal, we might not have met or been dialed into whatever our wants and our needs were for, you know, for that eating experience. There was just a little something missing. That's all. So cool. Thanks for sharing that. Tamara?
Well, I didn't have anything like to eat, so I grabbed some almond milk and just kind of did use that and imagined cereal with it. I wasn't hungry, so but yeah, I actually never, I guess because I always eat it with cereal, I never just really enjoyed it, like took my time and just savored just the taste of the almond milk. It's always been with, you know, with cereal or something. So so yeah, that was different. It was really good by itself. I think I could drink it by itself now. I always thought, oh, I don't want to drink it by itself, but because it, you know, I took the time, I think, to taste it and to think about it, it made all the difference. It really did.
Yeah. So
it really did.
Imagine if you slowed down enough to do that with every bite of every meal. Right? Number one, we end up eating less food because we're slowing down, really enjoying the experience. It takes 20 minutes, by the way, for the stomach to communicate back to the brain that we're full. So we need at least that amount of time, you know, over the course of a meal to be able to know whether or not we're full. And oftentimes, if we don't allocate, you know, that much time, we can overeat because we didn't eat slowly, you know. But it increases our enjoyment and increases our satisfaction of the food. It also will tell us what foods we really don't want to eat, because sometimes we're eating something just because we need to slam something down, and it's really not something we wanted or needed or we're really enjoying, right? And if we slow down enough and go, no, that's not it. That's not what I want right now. Push that aside and then identify what it is I really, really, really want. Then we have a very different eating experience, because we're not just eating to get calories in the body or nourish the body, but because there's something else, right? We want to be satisfied at the end. We want to enjoy it and walk away feeling as if, you know, we've been fully satisfied in that way. So so it slows us down to know when we're full, you know, to really be involved in the process of our eating, to not be distracted, to improve our enjoyment levels, to make better choices so that we can get feedback from our body as we're eating. Sometimes the feedback from our body is, don't eat this, you're not going to feel good if you eat it. And that happens to me now that I have found out that my body doesn't really like gluten very much. It took me a while to figure out what was going on and why I was having this, you know, these issues. And now that I've kind of peeled it away and I've slowed down and become even more mindful than I was, it's another layer of mindfulness when you have to identify if there's a food that's problematic, right? And so now I'm like, okay, you know, I'll start eating something, and, you know, whether or not I know there's gluten in it, my body's saying, don't eat this, you're not going to feel good, you know? And most of the time I listen to that. Sometimes I don't. And then afterward, my husband's like, I know what happened, because sometimes I just really want it. I really, really want that little piece of focaccia bread that he has on his plate and it tastes so good, right? And I know, but now I'm mindful and I know, okay, I might not feel good later. I'm going to take some enzymes. I'm going to take some probiotics and I'm going to ride it out. And I know I've made a choice. It's not about being in control or out of control. I legitimately made the choice of, okay, I might not feel good later after eating these couple bites. And that's a choice that I made that time. But those choices become fewer and farther in between the more mindful you become. And now it happens to me far less often. So, and right. I make that choice far less often because I don't want to feel crummy after I eat, right? I mean, it's just, I don't want to feel like bloated and icky, especially if I'm teaching yoga classes and working with clients. Like that's the last thing I want to feel when I'm, working with people and talking about health and wellness. And I'm being completely transparent here. So, and all that to say, mindful eating isn't about perfection either. It's about intentionality. And it's about choices, and it's about, really making that mind-body connection as often as we can and responding to our body, in a way that is honoring and in a way that helps us to live healthier, better, more vibrant lives. So that is a very, very fast, huge overview of what Am I Hungry and mindful eating are all about. But I'd love to know if you guys have any quick questions, and I'm sorry we went over in time. We did get started a little late because we had problems logging on, but thanks for taking a little bit of extra time here with me tonight. One thing I want to encourage you to do is on the handout that you have, it says Grace Girls special offer. That was an offer that I extended to Grace Girls of Risen Savior Church. And so that offer is available for whoever listens to this call. You can download chapter 1 of the Eat What You Love, Love What You Eat book for free. So you can take a look at that. And so I gave you a link where you can do that. And then also on the last page of your handout, I gave you a link where you can go in and get a free assessment on the website. So you can actually do an assessment of your own eating and find out where you land, where in terms of what percentage you are instinctive eater versus overeater versus restrictive eater. Okay. So you can kind of take a look at that assessment, and I think it's just a really valuable tool. And if you need help like understanding what the results of that are, or you want to talk to me more about it, I'm available. So just let me know if you'd like me to visit with you and kind of help you understand it. Okay. So any questions?
Okay. Well, I just want to say thank you, Dawn, for taking the time to share your story and how the book has helped, and it just sounds like something I'm very interested in. I feel like I'm kind of there, like I've kind of tuned into my body in certain ways, the things that I eat, but I could definitely do a lot better. And this has really helped me want to, take the next step for sure.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that feedback, Tamara. And like I said, if you want to just visit offline over, a phone call or whatever, even get together for coffee, I'd be happy to meet with you and just kind of see if there's anything I can help you with in that regard.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Cindy, Melanie, did you guys have anything to add?
No, I didn't.
That little bit of the cookie that I had, that went a long ways.
Yeah.
So I've been sitting here for over an hour, and I only had a small bit of that cookie, and I don't I can finish it, but it's amazing how it lasted.
Yeah. Or you can save it for later and enjoy it again.
Uh-huh.
Right? And that's another choice that we have is, if we eat just a little bit of it, it's like, oh, good. Now tomorrow it'll be available and I can eat a little bit of it tomorrow and enjoy it again. So instead of, overeating now and feeling uncomfortable and then, wishing that I hadn't done that, I can feel great tonight and tomorrow have a little bit and feel great tomorrow. And, it's definitely a better experience with the food then, right? So thanks for sharing. Okay, so I'm going to let you guys go. We do these every week. We're going to be meeting again next Wednesday at 7. I'm going to talk about the benefits of yoga next week. So we're going to learn some breathing strategies. Well, that's one of the really valuable tools of yoga is learning how to breathe again. But why do we need to do that, and how does that help the body? But then we're also going to be talking just about the health benefits of yoga, and I'll be answering questions and stuff. So feel free to join us and invite anyone else who might be interested in that.
Great. Thank you, John.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.